It is not my day today. It's raining and cold and drizzly, and I had an incredible project which I was so close to being able to put out today, but I lost a couple of irreplaceable pieces, so I'm going to have to shift that project up to tomorrow, which means I have only the small hours to go before this day is over to finish a project and make a whole video for today. So I saw a really cool puzzle a little while ago, which was an open 5x5. And it's kind of a boring modification, if I'm honest. You just glue up the pieces here, and you take everything here out. What I wanted to do is I wanted to juice it up a little bit. So I'm just going to jump straight into this and take you guys along for the ride. So the concept of the puzzle that I'm going to be building today is actually really cool. Typically these puzzles aren't very interesting, but what I'm going to be doing today is removing everything other than two functional layers on two functional faces. It's going to look pretty cool. So to get started, I marked out all of the areas that I was going to glue together, similar to a bandage modification. Now all of this gluing was going to be temporary, as all of these areas that I was marking out and gluing together were going to be cut off in the final product. Now as I was gluing all of these pieces together, I realized that I had basically sealed this part of the puzzle that I wanted to remove inside the cube, so I had to take the puzzle over to my bandsaw and cut that block out. It actually turned out pretty well for me though, because I was going to have to cut down some parts of the mechanism anyway, so it ended up being the right way to go about doing it. And after I persuaded the pieces out, there we go, it was time to disassemble the puzzle and pull out the section that I had glued together. Now, I'll be honest, the reason I'm doing this puzzle in such a complicated style is because I didn't want to make you all sit through another boring bandage modification, but it was also a really good excuse to try using plastic sheeting in the modification because I haven't done that for a really long time. I prized the center caps off and then I disassembled the puzzle, much as I usually do. And then I took the piece over to my belt sander and I tried to thin the layers up as much as possible. And after everything was thinned up, I took this opportunity to glue up all of the inside parts of the pieces. This wasn't actually 100% necessary, as I was going to be gluing some plastic sheeting to them anyway, which would probably hold enough structural rigidity, but I decided to do it anyway. I roughened up the surface of the pieces of plastic sheeting and then I glued them to the piece that I built. I was actually very happy with how the surface finish of the plastic sheeting was looking, so I took it over to my bandsaw where I cut off all of the excess parts that I didn't need. I was trying to go for a look that made it seem as though these layers were just floating in thin air, but of course I needed the mechanism to be there. But I figured if I could remove just as much as possible, it'd give the same kind of effect. With all of the exterior roughly cut off, I took the piece over to my belt sander and I refined the shape more towards what I was looking for. I was just trying to sand down everything that wasn't part of the mechanism so I could make this one little piece as small as possible. After the piece was completed, I reassembled the puzzle and I'm actually pretty happy with how this puzzle is looking. I wasn't expecting too much because this was a pretty rush modification, but I actually think it looks not as good as I was hoping it to be, but still pretty good nonetheless. I do recommend that you try this modification if you haven't already, because it is a no epoxy mod, which means that you don't need epoxy sculpt to do it, and you don't really even need the plastic sheeting. I was just doing that because I felt like using it. But anyways, I hope you guys like this puzzle. I'll see you tomorrow with an even better modification. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Okay, just so you know, if I cut my fingers off, nobody gets my glove collection.